Karen Hunter. She is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, professor, publisher. Welcome to the Omi Show, Karen Hunter, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, man. Yeah, I got to stop agreeing to doing these things. I got to.
What?
Have to.
You've been doing a lot. I love that.
Too much. Sometimes you can do a little too much. Sometimes.
So I don't think so. I think it's all the ice cream and sprinkles. You can never have enough sprinkles, okay?
Really?
Never. I mean, not according to medical science, but I mean, Omi, the book of Omi 11:5 says
11:5.
Okay, Aunt Clifford.
That's right. So we always start off with this question. You could be doing anything in the world, okay? You could be living in Africa, studying abroad and researching and sending us back research to the U.S. You could be sailing the 7 seas. You could be mountain climbing. You could be a teacher without being a writer or any of that. Why did you decide to follow this journey and this path in your career around media?
I don't think I decided that this was the path I was going to take. I think when you are obedient to the Holy Spirit, that you follow what is open to you at the time. I became a journalist because I applied for a job. I could read and write because I majored in English. And my mother was like, you got to get a job. You have a degree, get out the house, go get a job. Because I thought, I could chill for the whole summer. My mother was not having it. Every morning, 7:00, blinds were going to be open and I was going to have to get my butt up out the house. My father had been out. He left at 5 a.m. every morning. So it was my mother's job to get me up and out. So I applied for a job as a journalist. But when I got there to interview, the owner of the small local paper said that there was a sports editor's job open that paid $35 more. And I was like, $35 more sounds like I would like to do that instead. And I don't know what I'm doing. She said, me either. So it was great. She didn't care about sports. So I got to learn how to do something without much direction, which is always, I love that. I don't like people lording over me and telling me what to do. I like to figure stuff out. So it was like a perfect storm. And in 3 months, I ended up at the Star Ledger, having figured some stuff out. So yeah, it's, it's opportunities present themselves, but you got to be ready for them.
So you started out in sports journalism?
Yeah.
So what's the difference do you think is between, or what are the different feeling in between like doing sports journalism and doing more like political, lifestyle, or daily news? Is there?
No. Better seats, better food. Like they feed you when you cover baseball, tennis, you get fed lovely food, you get more perks, you got the best seats in the house. If you love sports, it's when I covered the Nets for three seasons as a first beat writer for a few. And then I did sidebars. I'm literally on the state, on the right there, literally right there, like right there. On,
wow.
Like side as the Nephilim are running up and down the court. It was beautiful. If you like sports, if you don't like sports, then it's then
it's not fun. Even the food can't make it fun. So New York Times bestseller is like a mysterious place to land on for some folks. How did it feel? Let me start there. Like you found out, or I'm guessing
the first time was a book I did with LL Cool J. It was 1996. I make my own rules. And the list comes out, like the publishers know before it's published, right? So, I get a call. We made the New York Times bestsellers list. I think it was like number 15, and that first week is everything. It has become more of a formula in the last, I want to say 5 to 7 years in terms of like the pre-sales, era. If you put your book out, for example, Stephen A. Smith, one of my mentees at the Daily News, his book's not out until January, but he's making his rounds now because the game is the more pre-sales that first day that it opens, they count the several months. So now what? October, November, December. So he'll have 4 months of pre-sales making the rounds every day talking about it. He'll probably be a New York Times #1 bestseller, like when it opens up, because all those pre-sales count. Back then, there was no digital books, there was no Kindle, there was no audio book, there was it was just the paper. And so in '96, the Times would, release their list early to the publishers. And I was like, wow, then my name gets to be on there. So when you go to the list, it was like, with Karen Hunter. It's like, yay. So it felt really good. And then I was addicted to it because I'm a do freak. So then I called up the manager of Queen Latifah, actually the publicist, Terry Williams, the great Terry Williams. She was the publicist. And I was like, look, I just did this book. It's a bestseller. Who else in hip hop? Because I was doing music while I was on the editorial board and doing all these other things because I wanted free CDs. I've told this story many times, but because you get on the list when you write. So I'm like, all right. So I was doing a lot of music, hip hop, and I was like, all right, LL's big, Queen Latifah's big. All right, I want to do her book next. So I called her publicist, and she was like, all right, I'll put you in touch with her manager. And then I got to the publisher, and they were like, oh, well, we're sorry, we already have a writer. That book is done. I was like, well, keep my name on file because I suspect, I don't care who it is, that you're going to be calling me. Why did I know that? Because I just spent 6 months of chasing around a 20-something-year-old hip hop artist star who was not sitting still. I'm up till 3:00 in the morning. I mean, I'm just waiting for him for 8 hours while he takes a nap. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unprofessional. Just like, and I knew that maybe Queen Latifah would behave the same way, year younger. And if you're a seasoned writer, you ain't putting up with that. Or would you know how to hang out in the club, sleep on a bench? And would you hang out in the club? Would you be up all hours of the night just to get your interviews in? Would you know how to navigate that? I just, in my spirit, and I'm in my 20s too, understood that some seasoned writers gonna have a hard time doing this book. So I waited. A year later, I got a call. They didn't want to come back to me after the first writer was like, I quit, or they fired her. They went to get another writer because surely this brash person can't be, the one. That didn't work. They had 2 months to get this book out. Hey girl, what's up? Yeah, hey girl, what's up? I was like, who this? Oh, I'm, and so the Queen Latifah book, I mean, we got 2 months. Are you available?
2 months.
2 months. Are you available? I was like, but see, I knew I was supposed to do it, so I had to say yes, right? No money left. Like I'm getting like the drags after 2 writers got advances. Now what's left is like it was like a nickel and 5 rolled up dollars, and it was. But I made a decision. One, this is going to be a New York Times bestseller because now I know what that feels like. My first book was a bestseller. Who does that?
Right.
So every book I write's got to be a bestseller. So, and she's got the audience to do that, right? Because and this is before social media. There was no Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, none of that. So you have to ride off of the strength of that person to get to that audience. And she's touring and doing these things. Okay. And now she's doing acting. Okay. I think we're going to do a bestseller and the book's going to be dope because I'm doing it. 2 months though. So I had to come up with a strategy. No money, right? They weren't going to give me no more money. But, at every turn in your career, you make a decision. Is it about the money? Or is this the stepping stone to the money? Like, is there more money if I do this and then I have 2 New York Times bestsellers? I did it in 2 months and it was a New York Times bestseller. So then I was off to the races.
You know what? So I wouldn't even, some people are OGs. You're not an OG. You're the origin. If the O stands for origin, right? Of some folks' careers. And I think that that's so important to note and bring out because we look at how the fanfare or like the surface of what's happening with people, and we really don't know how many people it took to get this person to this other layer of who they now are or who they now can be accredited as, and how many people were involved in that. Like it's just so, I'm so fascinated by the career that you've had and the way that you continue to move and give back. So where did this nature of like, I'm a pull up while I climb, or I'm gonna like give back, like, was that familial? Was that like, you know?
Yeah, my father grew up in Newark on Prince Street, and then ended up taking over the store that his father started on Ridgewood and Madison in Newark, where he and his brothers and sisters were raised in the house. And when his father died, his mother literally basically fed the family out of that store. It wasn't prosperous. My father was the first to go to college, came back with a degree in business, and ran that store into a multi-million-dollar a year success. That's why I don't have any student loans to this day. But he had to get up at 5 o'clock every morning. And, it was interesting. He's not a very domestic person, but he got lab coats for everybody to wear, and he'd come home every night and bleach them, because they had to be white. And he made sure that the store had bright lights everywhere, because he said, that denotes, a certain level, like you come in, it's like, well, it wasn't dark. All of the shelves were clean. If you went into our house, we had a Sub-Zero refrigerator, and he stocked it like a store. When my friends would come over, they loved coming over just to be able to get juice, Yoo-hoo, every juice, every imaginable thing was in my refrigerator, perfectly lined up. To this day, my refrigerator looks just like that. And he would get up at 5 o'clock, go to the store, go to his job. He was a parole officer. After the job, come back to the store, close the store, come home, reconcile the books, midnight, go to sleep, rinse and repeat. Did that for 18 years. But he also employed the kids from the neighborhood, right? So it wasn't just, so many kids were able to go to college and get, buy their first car and buy their first home. And there was this kind of commitment to, this is where I'm from. And, even in our neighborhood, I told this story in the radio yesterday. In our neighborhood, my father was fastidious with the grass and everything. Grass had to be, he had formulas in the garage. Like, when he had time to do that, put spikes on some old shoes and irrigated the lawn. I mean, he was ridiculous. But there was a neighbor that moved in, this white man from Brooklyn, and didn't cut his grass. And my father was like, oh, excuse me. Hello. Hi. Can I cut your grass? Can I cut your grass? Because, in this neighborhood, everybody's lawn is perfect and yours is not. And, maybe you don't know, but I will cut your grass for you. Which the man was apoplectic, because who does that? But like, if you want to live in a place, if you want to live somewhere, first of all, you set the tone, right? If it's not that way, you got to set the tone. And if people ain't hearing the tone, you got to be a little louder with the tone. And then maybe you have to be a little bit more proactive with the tone, So I grew up in that kind of environment, and it's kind of like how I live, and it just feels right, because what I see is there became a competition in my neighborhood. Who got the best grass? Now you imagine you drive down the street and lawn after lawn after lawn after lawn. I mean, all black. Every lawn is perfectly, no weeds nowhere. Like, if you had weeds, because, those things spread. Oh, you would hear from Mr. Hunter about, excuse me, here's a true lawn. Would you like me to pay for it for you? Like, no, we're not doing weeds and dandelions and bull crap. Like, your lawn's going to be kept. And then everybody, when my father died, all of the men from the neighborhood wanted to come to see Mr. Hunter's formula in his garage. And, oh, these are the shoes he used. I mean, it was like, can I have these shoes? It was like this whole... Like, oh my God, this man made me into a man. Like, this man made me want to do better. This man made me, appreciate living in a neighborhood, and being part of a community. And, my mother at some point was president of the Block Association, but, it was just like neighborhood and family and community can be absolutely what you want it to be. And that extends out to everything, right? So if I'm successful with the Daily News, and in comes this young man from, Winston-Salem, wherever he went to school, HBCU. He's wearing these granny. I won't get into his outfit. His wardrobe now is impeccable. But I could tell, I had just gone through hell in the sports department with the racism there. I just shared this with my class, and treat me like whatever. And it was they paid for it. Let me just say that. But I was like, they're going to do the same thing to him. So let me go gather him up, school him, let him know that I got his back if he has any problems, because everybody over there scared of me. Let me know if they give you any problems, I got you. Because nobody should have to suffer what you suffered if you can make their path easier, because everyone should fly. And guess what? Success breeds success, right? So I don't know where you're going to end up. I've learned later, in life that, everybody that I came up with is now doing amazing things. And at any point in time, and I never asked anybody for anything, but if I need something, I know there's some people that came up with me, because of me, through me, and I should be able to call on them if I need something.
Speaking of hiring kids from the neighborhood, the Omi Show, formerly known as the Shelley Bell Show, is in existence because of Karen Hunter. Okay. And I was talking to our producer, I was talking to Ayara about this yesterday. In fact, our producer is a producer because of Karen Hunter. Okay. And so I've shared a story, but I want to hear the story from you. Like, what were you thinking? Because I know what I was thinking. So I'll tell my part of the story, and you can tell me what you was thinking when I called you. So so I'm thinking I want to have my own show. Like, that's literally what my thought was. So I called up Karen to just get some insight, because my PR team placed me on Karen's show. And then from there, we had such a great time, such a vibe. And my story, she really appreciated and honored, and she allowed me to have a recurring spot on her show. And so that energy continued. So when I called her, like, hey, I'm thinking about, what makes a successful show? Like, I'm just starting out just by asking for advice. Eventually she's like, you want your own show? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, well, I got this slide open up. Now I'm thinking in my mind, I don't know what the hell I'm about to do. Like, on the other end, I'm like, did she just offer me? I can't say no to this. I wasn't going to say no. I'm going to get over there and I'm going to figure it out. Unbeknownst to you, right? I'm thinking like, what? But all I'm going to say is yes. So I'm playing it cool. I'm good at playing it cool. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Oh, okay. You got, okay. Sundays. All right. Well, what do I do? What do I need to do? Right. So she's telling me all the things. She's like, all right, well, let me, do blah, blah. And I'm going to get back to you. So let me take it back. Right. When you met me and I told this story about the teepee, which I think was the thing.
Right. The teepee, I said, wow, this person is somebody that I want to learn from. And then you're building a venture where you're helping other Black women, get their businesses together. And I'm like, this is important. And so the vision for the channel, right? The vision that I had for the channel was that there would be many different voices all participating and helping to free the people who are listening in whatever area, right? And I can only do what I can do. But I think of the world like God is all present because we are everywhere. And God is all knowing because all of us know something. I don't know everything, but collectively we can be all knowing. And collectively we can, share the things that we have. And then the people who are listening get a full thing. I can't give everyone everything, but you can give them something I can't give them. And Clay can give them something I can't give them. And Loree can give them something I can't give them. And Heather can give them something. So for me, it was putting together a lineup, especially on Sunday, where we're kicking it off with Buster Soaries, who has a business grounding and he wants people to be financially free, but also he's going to give you some Jesus, which I think is good. Jesus, the message of Jesus is not a bad message, no matter what you believe, which is love your neighbor. That's just love one another, love. That's the foundation, right? And then we got L Joy, who's going to give you your civics, which I think is super important because I think we're woefully ignorant in that area. Sunday civics, she's amazing doing that. And we have, now Dr. Robin, who is going to pick up a little bit from stories, but take it forward with the mental health, which I think we all need that. And then it's like business is important, right? And I think SiriusXM caters to a certain demographic of people who are about that life. But some of us just don't know what we don't know. So if Shelly Bell can put a TP in her living room and make money off of it, this woman's going to tell some people some things that they may not have considered before. And that's important. So yes, you may not know how to do a radio show, but what is radio? Except communicating and disseminating the things you know to the people out there, or start trouble and, cause dissension and ruin the country. That's the only reason why you have radio right now. I decided to do radio, which is nourishing and encouraging. But it's more successful to do radio that destroys and creates dissension. So it's a conscious decision to not make all of the money, which is the other thing away from me to give you this, right? I don't lose anything by giving Shelly Bell a show. And if it doesn't work out, you've learned something and nobody got hurt. It's 1 hour. If it didn't work, okay, then you learn, okay, what do I need to do maybe next time? Or maybe this is not the way that I should get down. But I also believe that, perfection is a process. So we all learn, just like I figured out some stuff, you're going to figure some stuff out. We don't know everything, but hopefully you're going to put the time and effort in to find your voice, to figure out how you can reach your audience, because I'm also hoping that you bring some people in that weren't here before.
Well, we over here talking, ain't we, Takia?
All the words, all the words. Listen, I get real quiet. So Karen, I get real quiet, especially when we have some. Yeah, I'm quiet. I like to listen and I like to take notes. So I'm a note taker. Okay. Homie, don't say nothing. Don't shake your head about my notes. Okay. I got my notebook. I'm ready. And so one of the questions that came to me, you said earlier that you were brass. Like you said it was, you were talking and you were just like, this brass, woman. And I was like, oh, what made you one think that you're brass? And then how do you use that? Because a lot of times I'm finding, especially with African American women, we try to shy away from that type of, I don't want to say aggression, but just staying fully in who we are. And so I just wanted to hear what because when you said brass, I said, hey, she said brass.
I'm 5'10". I was 5'10", 240 pounds at age 12. Very hard to blend in and not be seen. And I had this voice. It's kind of loud when it projects well. It's a good solid voice. It's not. So, I guess I learned really early. I had two choices. I could shrink myself, which never felt good. Or I could be big, which made some people uncomfortable. A lot of people uncomfortable. Do I rather make other people uncomfortable or myself? Well, I made a decision early on. You're going to just have to be uncomfortable if you're uncomfortable. I'm not going to be uncomfortable. Are there consequences? Yes. But I've also learned people adjust. You pour water into a glass, it's going to find its way. If it's too much, it'll overflow. You drop something in, the water's going to make room for it. People make room for you when you show up at the New York Daily News very early on. I had at my desk, sitting at my desk, starting businesses, during my free time. So I started about three businesses at the New York Daily News, including a magazine where I got $1 million from Bear Stearns. I'm still in my 20s. But what I also learned is when you empower yourself in that way, the levers of power then look at you differently, right? So when I went to my boss, I'm like, I'm leaving. It was like, I just got $1 million. I printed out my bank statement. I would come to work every day and put my bank statement on the wall, which had $1 million in it, which was hilarious to me. And my coworkers was like, Hunter, is this your bank account? I was like, yup. Then I'm still here working every day because I'm an asshole like that. And it was hilarious to me that I could work and have $1 million in my bank account.
Well, everybody that knows you or have worked with you, they should be really clear by now that Karen Hunter does not mess around, okay? You are not going to be giving her anything she don't agree with. You're not going to be controlling her to do any other and ask her to do anything that's against her integrity, any of that. If they don't know that by now, then I don't know. They sleeping. I would say, so how with Nubia and Knarrative, right? You have social media. You also have a bunch of pop culture media outlet things popping up, bloggers becoming serious outlets, that kind of thing. how do you see, what's the difference between the two? And then how do you see them being different in their impact on the world?
So Knarrative was born out of the pandemic. It was born out of In Class with Carr. Dr. Greg Carr and I would it started as a recording where, the world's on fire, George Floyd's happening, everything's going on. And I just want to talk to somebody sane every day. And it turned into me wanting to get the knowledge because, it started with a conversation about Ida B. Wells, because I'm like, how does she do this in a time when, so he's given the background, a story, because I'm like, everybody's done something before you. Take the things that work and use them to build the thing that you want to build. So this woman going around the country telling people, telling the world about the lynchings and the horror, the rapes and the Southern horrors, and writing about it, and then having her own life threatened and having 5 children and a husband. And, it's like all of the things, and being disrespected by white women like Susan B. Anthony, who didn't want her to be, so it was not even about us with the vote, the women's vote. So y'all can miss us with that suffrage bull. But this woman, unapologetic. And I was like, tell me about her. And in 22 minutes, this man broke down. I was like, okay, can I hit record? First of all, stop talking. Let people need to hear this. And can we continue to do this? 129 classes later, we have been every Saturday now doing this consistently, never stop, not through his mom's death, not through anything, travel, whatever. We're going to sit in community, because what I learned in that moment is that we don't know enough. And if you have a brilliant man like this who can, so I'm a journalist, I'm going to ask the questions and just sit back, get out the way, let this man tell us the things we need to know and connect it to where we are right now, where we need to be. Because again, I want to create the world I want to live in. And then the message board and the communication with them, because the people are commenting each other. We're building this community of people all over the globe, people in Africa and Bermuda, Bahamas, everywhere, right? London. But it's a learning function. The Knarrative was built as a learning space. So we would have, Cornell Weston, and we're taping and learning, but then there's no way to stream. So we're using YouTube, and I'm like, that's the devil's tool. YouTube, they control everything. Even that money, it was like, they can't get that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't deserve that. And then you got trolls you got to navigate through, because everybody's not there for the same purpose. But at least I know, if we build something, the people who come, they're going to be about this life.
Real quick, we could talk all night. Seriously. I want to end with, I do want you to mention your petition on change.org to pardon Marcus Garvey. If you give us like an overview of that and tell our listeners where to go to make sure that they can get involved and sign this petition, because I think it's such an important thing.
Change.org, Marcus Garvey, President Biden, pardon Marcus Garvey. I think if you do the search, it'll pop up, and I'll drop the link. But I was talking, I had Dr. Julius Garvey on my show a bunch of times, and they had just done a petition like 2 months ago to get his name pardoned, right? He's still on the books as a criminal. And this is a man who, if you don't know, there's no Black Panther Party, no Nation of Islam, no Malcolm X, whose parents were both Garveyites, without Marcus Garvey's vision for community, right? And it's very much what we're doing now, is connecting the dots around the diaspora. Marcus Garvey saw a future where throughout the diaspora, Black people would come together and build the kind of world that they wanted to live in. He even had a shipping line. And so they hemmed him up on some, wire fraud thing or whatever. It wasn't wire fraud. It was like empty envelope. This man's, grifting. And now he has this record, and so his son is in his 80s. And I said, can I try one more time? So, and it took a petition to get the president at the time to release him from jail. 70,000 people signed a petition in the 1920s to release him from jail. We can't this is symbolic, yes, but it's nothing. It's 2 minutes of your time. Sign a petition. Doesn't take anything away from you, but it's also kind of a moral victory of what we can do when we work together. Because I'm planning a day of absence coming up in 2023, boycotts. And if we can't do a simple thing like sign a petition, how do we get voting rights?
You know what? I appreciate you so much, more than words can say, that I would say on this show or anywhere else in the world. That my level of appreciation, honor, respect for Karen Hunter is through the heavens. Okay. Like it means everything to me, the way that you give back. It means everything to me, the way that you think about how you want the world to be and the actions that you take to make that happen. Like I definitely am a person that works hard at that and aspires to. I admire that. I don't know if I ever told you that, so I'm telling you now while we talk about it. But I think it's genius, and deserves all the glory and all the awards and all the things the greatness coming to you.
Thank you. I received that, and you and Takia, I love how you are regular ass people talking about the things that we need to hear, coming from that perspective, and the success that you have demonstrated makes it possible for everybody listening. Like it's possible. Omi Bell is here. Takia Ross is here. All things are possible. I'm here. It's possible.
Right.
Nothing that is.
Now it's been impossible to end this show, and our producers are gonna have my head for it. But thank you so much for joining us. This has been a special show. We're gonna have to make this one the whole show and no intro, any of that. Like this is just what it is. We needed this conversation. The world needed this conversation, and I think it's of the utmost importance. So thank you so much for joining us. Karen Hunter, y'all, her show is on every day, actually from 3 to 6 on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, where talk empowers and becomes action. I am Omi Bell. You listen to the Omi Show. I'm here every Sunday at noon with my co-host,
Takia Ross.
We'll see you next Sunday.